Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Stage Dynamics, and this is my review of the KGM R30 Suppressor. I've been excited about this one. I've actually been excited to tell you guys about this one. I first saw this suppressor a couple months ago when I went by KGM because they are based pretty close to where I live. So it's nice to be able to pop in and see what they're working on. And one of the things they were working on, it had already been out for a little while, but I was able to get my hands on one. KGM was nice enough to send me one. Is the R30 suppressor. And it kind of defaults to a 30 caliber, but it's multi-cal can. You know, obviously anything 30 cal can shoot anything 30 cal and below. For the review process, I use 300 blackout both in super and subsonic, as well as 6.5 Creedmoor and your traditional 308. Getting right into the suppressor, what's got me kind of excited about it. One, I know the guys at KGM. I've known them for quite some time, so keeping that in mind, I still wanted to be as objective as possible in my review, so I didn't change anything, didn't change any standards in presenting or conducting the review and also presenting it to you. This is a 30 caliber suppressor, and it has the ASR pitch for mounting system. So any mounting system is going to be kind of the industry standard of ASR, such as like the Area 419, Dead Air Chemo, the Q, Plan B, Soundstrico ASR. It includes one mount, which is a 5.8 by 24, which is going to put it on most of your 300 blackout and your 308 and your 6.5s anyway. You can shoot 5.56 through it if you wanted to, but that's not something I did. Another really cool feature to this suppressor is the fact that it has a adjustable gas port, exit porting, if you will. The main purpose for this, KGM calls it APEC, which is adjustable port end cap, allows for maximum recoil reduction. It allows you to time, you've got multiple gas ports that surround the actual end cap there, and you can time them with the included kit, basically a little Allen key and some hexes that you can put in there, and there is a limit on it, so it's not, you don't have to worry about screwing it all the way into the actual exit path of the round or into the baffles. That's definitely something that they put some thought into, because if you didn't add that, somebody could screw it in too far and give themselves an inadvertent baffle strike. And what that really lets you do is kind of create a muzzle device out of your suppressor as a one-piece system. Now you can run it without any of those entered at all, but thread it onto the gun, get it tightened down nice and tight, take a look at where your reference points are, and then you can time it. Shooting it on the SCAR 20, shooting a 168 grain ELD Hornady, I did a couple of rounds without any timing done whatsoever. And that's kind of what you're looking at right now, is just shooting the gun normally. You'll notice I'm getting on a little bit of toss out off the deck there, but also I've got a little bit more bipod bounce, because there's nothing helping keep the gun pinned to the ground, because gas is being distributed evenly, as it often would, out the muzzle device. And one thing suppressor companies don't always pay a lot of attention to is the fact that for a lot of people, a suppressor is a muzzle device. So it needs to have some degree of recoil reduction or recoil mitigation built into it, if possible, as long as that doesn't increase the actual sound of the gun. Same gun, same ammunition, I went ahead and timed it to where I only had 3 gas ports open up top there at that APEC end cap. And I went ahead and fired the same ammunition, same distances, and you'll definitely notice a significant reduction in bipod hop, as well as a significant reduction in what's going on underneath the gun, not as much toss salad anymore. The system definitely works. I used it in and out throughout the review, depending on what I was doing. Because the suppressor was getting taken off one gun and put onto another gun, I did try it on every single firearm, but I didn't run it the entire time because I didn't want to forget about it, then screw it onto a different gun where those ports would line up differently, and then suddenly I'm wondering why my gun's being pushed to the left or to the extreme right. So when I knew it was going to be on the gun dedicated for a while, it was definitely something I would put on there. Material construction is grade 5 titanium for the baffle stacks, and then the tube itself is grade 9. It's 7.3 inches in length, so it is a little bit longer length than maybe what some people are used to, but it's a 30 caliber suppressor, so being in the 7 to 8 inch range is perfectly reasonable depending on what you're going to do with it. It weighs in at just over 10 ounces. The real magic for this suppressor is in the baffles, and I wish I could cut this thing open and show you guys the baffle stack and how each individual baffle, what's unique about them. It's a multi-chamber design with a focus on gas flow without detriment to sound or flash. That's a direct quote from Kyle over at KGM. And shooting this thing in varied conditions, varied calibers throughout the 2,000 round review process, I would definitely and wholeheartedly agree with that assessment. I obviously the recoil, we already talked about that. The flash, using this thing in low light conditions and our night vision as well, it performs as advertised. It's giving me the kind of performance that I would expect. I'm getting not only muzzle flash reduction, which most suppressors don't have too much muzzle flash anyway, but it is something you have to worry about, especially if you shoot faster, you build up volume. So sometimes your first round may not pop, but 3 or 4 rounds in, once you got enough gas volume built up on the can, if you're shooting quickly, not even fast, just quicker, you can have the 3rd or 4th round flash really bad, and then it starts the whole violent process all over again. This is not something I was having happen with this can when using it under low light or even our night vision. Night vision muzzle flash is way more noticeable for obvious reasons, and it was pleasantly not very flashy at all. The sound attenuation is also very excellent. The first 500 rounds, I definitely noticed that, shooting it on 308 and then 300 blackout. 300 blackout subsonic is, well, just listen. Now that's a 9-inch MCX. That's good and quiet. Should be quiet for the size of the can, the diameter of the can being almost 2 inches, 1.75. But it's still always worth mentioning the fact that, you know, you shoot subsonic ammo through a suppressor like this, it's going to be really quiet. After that first 500 rounds of just getting to know you, went ahead and did the burn down. Burn down was going to be 500 rounds as quickly as possible to see if I identified any issues that didn't or wouldn't necessarily arise with the same round count over a much longer period of time. So about 4 or 5 minutes versus 4 or 5 hours, 4 or 5 days, 4 or 5 weeks. I did the burn down on 300 blackout, 120 grain, supersonic, using my SIG 9-inch MCX. Here's your burn down. The way a suppressor handles pressure can factor a lot into barrel length or adjustable gas systems. I've had suppressors in the past that were a similar profile, similar length, and the gas system of the rifle had to be tinkered with a lot more because the gun kept blowing out primers because of the way the suppressor puts pressure back into the gun. So I wouldn't say I was worried about it, but it's definitely something that's in my mind when I do a suppressor review. Is this suppressor going to cause issues with certain types of gas systems, like a piston system like the MCX has, versus a direct impingement? I've had suppressors that causes problems in direct impingement as well. So it's always a concern I have, especially if I wanted the suppressor for that particular gun. Pleasantly, at 500 rounds, no issues with that 300 blackout. Then, of course, for the next 1,000 rounds, I just varied it on caliber. Spent a lot of time, about 100 rounds of 6.5, which is a lot for a bolt gun. Sound attenuation is excellent. That recoil mitigation that I'm able to get out of it by timing that end cap, blocking up certain gas ports, so I'm pushing the suppressor straight down if that's what you want to do, or maybe a little bit to the side and straight down. You kind of got multiple options for timing that gas ejection from the gun, and on certain calibers that's going to be very advantageous. Pretty good. I think the ultimate measure of a suppressor is for sound attenuation is going to be how short can you go. I think this suppressor handles even shorter guns on supersonic ammo really well, even mounted on a 12-inch 308. Of course, arguably the 300 blackout supersonic is going to be right around as loud. I was very impressed with that. More so the fact that I prefer direct thread, but it's nice to be able to use my dead air chemo or a similar system. If you have a different system like ASR, you can just throw it on the suppressor and then you have a quick detach versus having to direct thread. For precision purposes, I almost always want to go direct thread. Very few exceptions to that. So having direct thread out of the box, kind of 308, 300 blackout, 6.5 Creedmoor native, for a can this size, would be what I'd be buying it for anyway. Performed pretty much as well as I could have expected. The final question to any suppressor is going to be accuracy. One, is it going to affect the accuracy of my gun? And 2, is it going to return to 0? And 3, for some people, is if I take the suppressor off the gun, having zeroed it on the gun, is my point of impact going to be different? Am I going to have a POI shift? You are. Almost every suppressor is going to cause some degree of a point of impact shift. But what I did is I zeroed it at 100 yards on my 6.5 Creedmoor. I went ahead and put the suppressor on, fired a 5-round group. Here's that group fired at 100 yards. Then I removed the suppressor and fired a 5-round group to see what kind of zero shift I can expect if I was going to shoot the gun unsuppressed with the zero being suppressed. So here's another 5-round group, same distance, same gun, only with the KGM R30 removed. And then, of course, finally, the real test, putting the suppressor back on the gun and firing another 5-round group. Same distance, 100 yards. I'm pretty happy with that performance. I'd call that return to 0, and also the zero shift unsuppressed wasn't really bad. And I did it a couple times throughout the review where I'd take it off, put it back on, take it off, put it back on, because like I said, it was going between different guns, different zeros, and each gun was zeroed to the suppressor. When I started the review process, I re-zero guns all the time because of this, although only the guns I use for reviews. And anytime I'd shoot 90 rounds of 300 blackout and then throw it on the 308, throw it on the Scar, throw it on the Suns, throw it back on the Tikka, it was returning to that zero that I did suppress. So I got really good return to 0 across multiple platforms, not just the Tikka that I showed the 100-yard group for. That's telling, that's impressive. Again, direct thread for most purposes, but not all of them. Obviously, on the Sons of Liberty, I used chemo instead of messing around with trying to remove my muzzle device so I could run direct thread on that. That's just good performance. How do I feel about the suppressor after 2,000 rounds? You need this suppressor. I'm really happy with the overall performance, and I think you probably heard a little bit of excitement. And it's rare that I get excited about things, even stuff that I'm really into, because there's so many good suppressors. So doing a suppressor review and having just one more good suppressor is like, hey guys, this is cool too, so if you're in the market, consider it. Which is kind of usually my advice for suppressors that are good. I would right now tell you that, like, if you do not have a KGM suppressor in your life, you're wrong. If you're a guy who's looking to buy another suppressor or get your first 30 cal suppressor, just get this one. Now, I know I've said that about suppressors in the past, but based on my understanding of the non-linear nature of time, opinions can change based on, time advancing. This is definitely my new top recommended 30 cal suppressor. Don't what if me in the comments section. This is the one. If I'm going to recommend, especially for precision applications, if I was going to recommend a 30 caliber can, it's going to be this one. Now, if you have a very specific firearm, you may need a different suppressor to make that firearm work. But just as a broad statement, this is definitely one of the better, if not the best, 30 caliber suppressor I've used in quite some time. I'm really happy to see KGM getting this kind of product out there, and I think that we're seeing the next generation of suppressor technology come to bear, and I think KGM is going to be right there with a lot of the other companies bringing new and exciting products out there that may at first just look like another suppressor, but there's actually internal things going on differently that are changing the performance, the features, and the overall efficiency and durability and longevity of the suppressor. And I think the KGM R30 is a definite have to have. I'm Eric Count with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.